The rain was hitting Jennifer's office window when she looked up from my promotion application and said the word that changed everything. Adequate. 8 years of my life, condensed into a 25-page portfolio that she'd barely glanced at before setting it aside like yesterday's newspaper. My name is Christopher Williams. I'm 49 years old, and until that meeting, I was the guy who kept Apex Technologies running while everyone else took the credit. Single father to Kevin, my 16-year-old son, ever since my wife passed 4 years ago from cancer. Between you and me, those have been the hardest years of my life. Trying to be both parents while climbing the corporate ladder at a company that seemed determined to keep me invisible. I appreciate your dedication, Chris, Jennifer said, adjusting her designer glasses. But after reviewing your application thoroughly, while your work has been adequate, I don't believe you're quite ready for senior management. Perhaps we can revisit this in another year or two. Adequate. The word just hung there between us like a bad smell. I'd maintained the department's highest efficiency ratings for 3 straight years. I personally saved the Patterson manufacturing account when everyone else had written it off as a lost cause. That account alone brings in $2.3 million annually now. I hadn't taken a full weekend off in over 2 years, not since my wife passed and I became Kevin's only parent. Every late night, every missed baseball game, every time I had to tell Kevin maybe next weekend, all of it dismissed as adequate, but I just smiled and nodded. After 8 years in corporate America, you learn to keep your mouth shut when you want to keep your job, especially when you've got a teenager to put through college and retirement still feels like a moving target. I understand. Thank you for the feedback, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Good. Glad we're on the same page, Jennifer replied, already checking her watch. The Morrison Industries proposal needs your immediate attention. They're requesting additional implementation details before final approval. You know how important this client is. Important enough to assign to the guy who's merely adequate, apparently. Morrison Industries. Our biggest client at $8.2 million annually. The relationship I'd built from scratch after their previous account manager botched things so badly they were ready to walk. As I gathered my things, Jennifer was already typing an email to someone else. My career disappointment was already forgotten, filed away like any other Tuesday afternoon task. The woman who made 40% more than me despite understanding maybe 20% of what actually kept this department running had just decided my future with one word. I walked past the corner office that should have been mine, with its view of the Chicago skyline and the nameplate that didn't say Williams. In the parking garage, I sat in my truck for a good 5 minutes, staring at nothing, listening to the rain tap against the windshield. You know what I realized? I wasn't angry. I was done. I started the engine and made 2 decisions that would flip everything upside down. First, I was canceling the fishing trip Kevin and I had planned for next weekend, the one I'd been promising him for 2 months. Second, I was done being the invisible guy who fixed everything while others took bows. I'd spent 8 years being the dependable one, the guy who stayed late, came in early, and made sure everyone else looked good. Time to see how they'd handle things without their safety net. See, nobody at Apex knew it yet, but their perfect system was about to crash without its main support beam. And this time, I was going to let them feel it. Let me back up and give you the full picture. When I joined Apex 8 years ago, I inherited a complete disaster. The previous operations manager had quit without notice after a screaming match with upper management, taking all the institutional knowledge with him. No documentation, no handoff procedures, not even passwords to critical systems. The whole department was held together with duct tape and prayers. The place was falling apart. Morrison Industries was threatening to walk. This was back when they were only a $3 million account. 2 other major clients were demanding answers about service failures. Nobody knew how anything worked because the guy before me had kept everything in his head, apparently believing job security meant being irreplaceable. I spent the first 4 months working 12-hour days, reverse engineering every workflow, rebuilding client relationships that were hanging by a thread, creating detailed process documents for everything. I color-coded systems, cross-referenced procedures, built backup protocols that a new hire could follow. The work was exhausting, but I knew Kevin needed stability after losing his mom. A steady job with good benefits was my priority, not glory. Jennifer was brought in 2 years later as my supervisor. Fresh MBA from Northwestern, full of buzzwords but zero hands-on experience. She never bothered learning the systems I'd built. Why would she? I handled everything so smoothly that problems got solved before she even knew they existed. "You're a natural problem solver," she'd tell me during performance reviews, always followed by a modest 3-4% raise that never matched the value I brought to the table. Meanwhile, she'd present my strategies to the executive team as collaborative efforts, taking credit for innovations that kept us ahead of competitors. The morning after my promotion got shot down, something switched off inside me. I showed up at exactly 9 a.m. instead of my usual 7 a.m. start time. No early morning prep work for Jennifer's meetings, no getting ahead of the daily fires that inevitably erupted, no proactive problem solving. For the first time in 8 years, I was going to do exactly what my job description said, nothing more. Let's see how adequate looked when the rubber met the road. I answered emails that were directly addressed to me and ignored the rest. When a crisis popped up with one of our suppliers, the kind of thing I'd normally jump on immediately, I forwarded it to the appropriate department instead of taking ownership myself. For the first time in 8 years, I was working strictly within my job description boundaries. By 10:30 a.m., my phone started buzzing with confused colleagues. By lunch, 3 people had stopped by my desk looking genuinely puzzled. "Chris, did you see the email thread about the Patterson delivery schedule conflict?" asked Lisa from accounts, hovering beside my cubicle with a stack of printouts. "Yeah, I saw it," I said, continuing to type without looking up. She waited for more. When nothing came, she shifted awkwardly, papers crinkling in her hands. "So, can you handle it like you usually do? Their production manager is calling every hour." I looked up from my screen, gave her my most helpful smile. "That's actually a procurement and logistics coordination issue." I forwarded it to both departments with all the relevant background information. Her eyebrows shot up like I'd just told her I was joining the circus. "But you always take care of these cross-departmental things. You know how to get everyone talking to each other?" "I've been advised to focus more on my core responsibilities," I said pleasantly, trying to demonstrate that I understand my proper place in the organization hierarchy. Lisa opened her mouth, closed it, then walked away, shaking her head. I could hear her muttering something about corporate politics as she headed back to her desk. Around 2 p.m., the Patterson situation had escalated. Their delivery trucks were sitting idle while our procurement team argued with logistics about whose responsibility it was to authorize the schedule change. What normally would have taken me one 15-minute phone call was now a full-blown departmental crisis involving 4 different managers in a conference room full of pointed fingers. I continued working on my quarterly compliance reports, humming softly to myself. By 5 p.m., I packed up my things with the satisfaction of a job well done. Or at least a job done exactly as specified in my contract. No overtime, no taking work home, no checking emails after hours. I'd spent 8 years being available 24/7, treating my phone like an electronic leash. Tonight, that was changing. On my way home, I stopped by the baseball diamond where Kevin's team was practicing. I hadn't made it to a practice in 6 months, always some urgent work crisis that demanded my immediate attention. Today, I sat in the bleachers and watched my son nail 3 consecutive doubles during batting practice. "Dad!" Kevin jogged over after practice, his face lit up with surprise. "I didn't think you were coming. Isn't this your busy season with the quarterly reports?" "The reports will be there tomorrow," I said, ruffling his hair. "Your swing's looking good." "Coach been working with you on that stance?" "Yeah, and I've been practicing like you taught me. Remember when you said to keep my eye on the ball through the entire swing?" His excitement was infectious. "Coach says I might start in the lineup next game if I keep improving." Driving home, Kevin chattering about his teammates and upcoming games, I realized how much I'd been missing. Not just the baseball, the everyday moments, the conversations, the simple pleasure of being present in my son's life instead of always half distracted by work emergencies. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I turned off all work notifications on my phone and helped Kevin with his physics homework. Really helped, not the distracted, looks good responses I'd been giving while checking emails. "Dad, you seem different tonight," Kevin said, looking up from his calculations about projectile motion. "More here." "What do you mean?" I asked, though I knew exactly what he meant. "Usually when you help me with homework, your phone's buzzing and you keep checking it. Tonight it's just been sitting there." He gestured at my silent phone. "Are you feeling okay?" I laughed. "Yeah, I'm feeling fine, maybe better than I have in a long time. I decided my time with you was more valuable than I'd been treating it." He grinned. Does this mean you can come to my game Thursday? It's against Lincoln High, our biggest rivals. Absolutely, I promised, and for once I meant it without any mental reservations about work conflicts. Awesome. And Dad, thanks for helping with this projectile stuff. I actually understand it now. Around 9 p.m., my work phone started buzzing incessantly on the kitchen counter. Kevin glanced at it, then at me. Aren't you going to check that? Nope, I said, turning back to help him with the next problem set. Whatever it is can wait until tomorrow. What I didn't tell Kevin was that I'd already checked the caller ID. Jennifer's number had appeared 7 times in the past hour. The Patterson crisis had apparently escalated beyond what procurement and logistics could handle without someone who understood the bigger picture. Someone who knew which buttons to push and which people to call. Someone adequate. By 10 p.m., the missed calls had climbed to 23. Text messages were piling up. Need you to call back ASAP and Patterson's situation urgent, and finally, Chris, where are you? This can't wait. I silenced the phone completely and went to bed. For the first time in years, I slept like a baby. The next morning, I arrived at exactly 9 a.m., not 7:30, not 8:45, exactly 9. The office looked different somehow. There was an energy in the air, a barely controlled panic that reminded me of my first week 8 years ago when everything was falling apart. People were moving faster, talking louder, clustering in small groups with worried expressions. I could see Jennifer through her glass office pacing back and forth while talking rapidly on the phone. Her usually perfect appearance looked slightly frayed around the edges. I settled at my desk, opened my computer, and calmly began organizing my tasks for the day. The quarterly compliance report needed finishing, and I had a vendor meeting at 11 a.m. that couldn't be postponed. That's when the real chaos began. "Where the hell have you been?" Lisa practically shouted, appearing beside my desk before I'd even finished logging into my computer. Her usually composed demeanor had cracked completely. "Everything's falling apart. Jennifer's been trying to reach you since yesterday afternoon." "I left at 5 p.m., I said calmly, opening my email. "My contract specifies standard business hours of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But the Patterson crisis? What about it?" Her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to catch flies. "They're threatening to pull their entire account. Their production line has been down since yesterday because nobody could authorize the schedule changes. That's $2.3 million in annual revenue." I nodded thoughtfully, scrolling through the 47 urgent emails that had accumulated overnight. That process requires coordination between procurement, logistics, and operations. It's all documented in the crisis management protocols I developed 2 years ago. Nobody can make sense of your documentation without you walking them through it step by step, she almost yelled. "Interesting," I said. Jennifer assured me during my performance review that my work was merely adequate. I assumed that meant anyone could handle these situations. Before Lisa could respond, Jennifer's assistant appeared, looking like she'd been running. "Chris, emergency meeting in conference room A." Immediately, I glanced at my watch. "I have the vendor compliance meeting at 11. This shouldn't take long, should it? Just, please, now." I gathered a notepad and walked unhurriedly to the conference room where Jennifer sat with our regional director, Matthew Rodriguez. The table was covered with printouts, laptops open to crisis dashboards, and what looked like damage control timelines. Both of them looked like they'd been up all night. "Chris," Matthew said, relief flooding his voice like I was the cavalry riding over the hill. "Thank God. We need your help with multiple critical situations." I sat down and placed my notepad on the table. Of course. How can I assist within my current role parameters? Jennifer's face was tight with barely controlled fury, but also something else. Fear. "Let's cut through the corporate speak. What will it take for you to fix these crises?" "Fix what exactly?" I asked genuinely. "I've been performing my assigned duties according to my job description. Perhaps you could be more specific about which situations require attention." Matthew leaned forward, his voice urgent. "The Patterson account is threatening to terminate over yesterday's delivery failures. Morrison Industries called an hour ago. Their system integration has hit critical errors that are affecting their daily operations. 3 other clients have reported service disruptions. Our operations efficiency metrics have dropped 40% in 2 days." I tilted my head slightly. That does sound serious. Though I should mention, I've been contacted by TechFlow Solutions regarding a senior director position. They've offered a comprehensive package including significant salary improvement, full benefits, and equity participation. The room went dead silent. Matthew's eyes widened while Jennifer's narrowed to slits. You could have heard a pin drop in that conference room. You're leaving? Matthew asked, his voice barely above a whisper. When? I haven't accepted their offer yet, I said, reaching into my folder. I was taking time to carefully consider my career options and what would be best for my family's future. I placed an envelope on the table. However, given yesterday's feedback about my performance level, I think a change might be beneficial for everyone. Here's my formal 2 weeks' notice. Jennifer reached for the envelope like it was a live grenade, but Matthew was faster. He opened it, scanned the contents with growing alarm, then closed it decisively. This won't be necessary, he said firmly. Chris, I'd like to speak with you privately. My office. As I stood to follow him, I could see Jennifer's hands trembling slightly against the polished conference table. The woman who'd dismissed 8 years of my contributions as adequate was finally understanding what adequate really looked like. Matthew's corner office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Chicago. On a clear day, you could see Lake Michigan from here. Today, the view was obscured by storm clouds that seemed fitting for the crisis unfolding below. I've been watching your contributions for some time, Matthew said, settling behind his desk, though apparently not closely enough. This situation with Jennifer concerns me deeply. I stayed quiet, letting him talk. Sometimes the best strategy is knowing when to listen. The board has been asking questions about our operational efficiency improvements over the past few years. Every time I've investigated, your fingerprints are all over the solutions. The Patterson account recovery, the Morrison relationship expansion, the vendor consolidation project that saved us $1.2 million annually, all initiatives you developed. He paused, studying my face. Jennifer's been taking credit for your strategies, hasn't she? I prefer to focus on results rather than recognition, I said diplomatically. That's admirable, but it's also been a disservice to your career advancement. Matthew leaned back in his chair. I'm creating a new position, Director of Operations reporting directly to me. 75% salary increase, comprehensive benefits package including enhanced 401k matching, flexible remote work options, and complete authority over departmental workflow design. He slid a folder across his desk. The position includes a signing bonus to recognize your contributions that have been underappreciated. Full medical and dental coverage, which I know is important for a single father planning for college expenses. I didn't answer immediately, which seemed to surprise him. After 8 years of being overlooked, taking time to consider a major offer wasn't unreasonable. Is that not sufficient? He asked. It's very generous, I acknowledged, but I need to be clear about something. TechFlow's offer isn't leverage. They've been recruiting me for 3 months. Their package includes equity options and a clear path to VP level within 18 months. Matthew's expression grew more serious. What can we offer that they can't? I looked out at the Chicago skyline, thinking about Kevin's college application sitting on our kitchen table, about the 401k balance that still needed serious boosting before retirement, about the systems I'd built here that worked. A chance to finish what I started, I said finally, and the opportunity to ensure other talented people don't get overlooked the way I was. Matthew studied me with new interest. That's unexpected and politically astute. You're talking about cultural transformation, not just personal advancement. I've learned a few things watching talented people get overlooked while less capable managers take credit, I said. Kevin's going to enter the workforce someday. I'd like it to be a place where merit actually matters. Very well, Matthew said, extending his hand. I'll need an answer by Monday morning, but I'm confident we can structure something that works for everyone. I appreciate that. And Matthew? I'll need Jennifer to remain in her current position. This clearly surprised him. After how she's treated you? Because replacing her doesn't solve the structural problems, and because I don't want my first leadership act to be perceived as revenge. She's good with clients. She just needs to stay in her lane. Matthew's respect was visible. You're thinking like an executive already. I spent that weekend truly disconnected from work for the first time in years. Saturday, I took Kevin to Wrigley Field for a Cubs doubleheader, something I'd been promising for months but never found time for. Between games, we walked around the stadium, talking about his college applications and what he wanted to study. Dad, you seem different lately, Kevin said, sipping his overpriced stadium soda. More relaxed, I guess. Work's been educational recently. Are you going to take that new job you mentioned? I'd told him about the tech flow offer, but not the internal promotion possibility. What do you think I should do? Kevin considered this seriously. Well, you always taught me that when people show you who they are, you should believe them. Your company showed you they don't value you properly. Maybe it's time to find people who do. Out of the mouths of babes. That's pretty wise for a 16-year-old. I learned from watching you, Dad. You always do the right thing, even when it's harder. Sunday evening, I called Matthew. I'm accepting your offer with 2 conditions. I'm listening. First, I want full hiring authority for my team. 3 positions that I believe are essential for long-term operational excellence. Granted. Second, I want to implement a company-wide talent development program. Too many good people are being overlooked because they don't fit traditional advancement profiles. Matthew was quiet for a moment. That's ambitious. What's your timeline? 6 months for initial rollout, full implementation within a year. I've already been developing the framework in my spare time. You continue to surprise me, Chris. Done. Monday morning, I walked into Apex Technologies for the first time as Director of Operations. The company-wide announcement went out at 10 a.m., and my inbox immediately exploded with congratulations and meeting requests. Lisa stopped by my new office. Yes, I finally got the corner office with the Chicago skyline view, looking somewhat sheepish. So you're my boss now? Technically, yes. Is that a problem? She shook her head quickly. No, it's great. You've always been the one who actually knew what was happening anyway. Plus, Jennifer seems different since everything went down. More collaborative, less taking credit for other people's work. That was interesting. Jennifer and I had developed a new working relationship over the following weeks. Not friendly exactly, but respectful and functional. She focused on client relationships and strategic presentations, things she was genuinely good at, while operational excellence became my domain. 3 months later, the transformation was remarkable. My new team included a brilliant systems analyst who'd been wasted in basic IT support and a process optimization specialist who'd been buried in administrative tasks. Together, we'd streamlined operations across 4 departments, reducing overtime costs by 35% while improving client satisfaction scores by 20%. The Morrison Industries contract had not only been saved but expanded to include 2 additional service lines, specifically requesting my team's involvement. Their CEO personally called Matthew to praise Apex's remarkable operational turnaround. The talent development program I'd implemented was identifying overlooked performers throughout the company. 15 employees received advancement opportunities they wouldn't have had under the old system. The program became a model that other companies in our industry started requesting presentations about. On a Friday afternoon, 6 months after my promotion, I was reviewing college financial aid applications with Kevin when my phone buzzed with a text from Matthew. Board approved your promotion to VP Operations, effective next month, unanimous vote. Even Jennifer recommended you enthusiastically. Well deserved. I set the phone down and looked at Kevin, who was comparing scholarship opportunities from 3 different universities. His grades had improved significantly since I'd started being more present in his life, and his college prospects looked excellent. Good news? He asked, looking up from his applications. Good news, I confirmed. The retirement fund is looking much healthier and your college expenses are covered. He grinned. Does this mean you finally made it to the top? I thought about that for a moment. You know what? I think I figured out that the real top isn't about the title or the corner office. It's about creating a place where people like you will be valued for what they can contribute, not overlooked because they don't fit someone else's narrow definition of leadership material. So you changed the whole system? We're working on it. Change takes time, but it's happening. That evening, as Kevin worked on his final essay for Northwestern, my old company's CEO's alma mater, ironically, I reflected on how far we'd come. The corner office was nice, but it wasn't the victory. The victory was building systems that identified and developed talent instead of letting it languish in invisible roles. Sometimes the most powerful response to being underestimated isn't proving others wrong. It's creating a world where quiet competence gets the recognition it deserves, where being adequate isn't an insult, but a starting point for growth. If you've ever felt invisible despite carrying more than your share, remember this: your worth isn't determined by others' inability to see it. It's defined by the impact you make, whether acknowledged or not. And sometimes the best revenge is making sure it never happens to anyone else. The systems you build, the people you mentor, the culture you help create, that's the legacy that outlasts any promotion or corner office. That's what really matters in the end.